Basically, you should be interactive with me, so feel free. We'll hear you, but we won't see you. So
yeah, and you can cut me out.
We're not cutting anything out. We're not cutting anything. So how do you pronounce, Lee, how do you pronounce your last name?
Reinharth.
Reinhardt. Any connection to Django Reinhardt?
TH at the end.
TH.
Reinharth.
Reinhardt. And
he can't say it, he's an Israeli.
Leon, tell me. Lee, can I call you Lee? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Lee, where were you born and when?
I was born in 1925 on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, a street called Delancey Street, which no longer exists, which is...
Oh, it exists?
Yeah, but there's a yard there or something.
Oh, where you were born?
Yeah.
On Delancey. That's a main street. That's a big street to grow up on.
Yeah,
a lot of action going on there. The Williamsburg Bridge goes through there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell him it's become a very hot area.
Oh,
my dad
it's very
the
trendy.
Yard. It probably has a huge hotel or 10 restaurants.
My grandmother was born on East Broadway and Canal.
Oh.
And my grandfather was born on Broome and Orchard.
Oh, we're neighbors.
Yeah, but they were a little bit older than you.
Oh.
1900 and 1908.
Oh.
So they were a little bit. So you're born. Are you the oldest child? Are you the youngest? What's your situation?
Second.
You're the second.
I have 3 sisters. 1 is older and 2 are younger.
And you're the only boy.
Yeah.
You're the prince.
Yeah.
You got
Something like that, right?
Ben Yachid.
Ben Yachid. Ben Yachid. Now, what kind of house do your parents have? Are they immigrants or were they born in the United States?
They were immigrants.
And where were they from?
Galicia.
Poland. Both of them?
Galiciana.
Galiciana. So that was probably at that time Austro-Hungarian Empire.
Yes.
Lemberg.
Right.
Which is today Lvov.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're from that area?
Yes.
Did they marry there and then come to the States, or did they meet in the States?
It's a good question.
All right. I like good questions. Take your time.
I don't...
You don't know. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Hold on a second. So you're born in 1925. When in 1925? What's your birthday?
November 26.
November 26, 1925. What kind of house are you brought up in? Is it religious? Is it kosher? Is it socialist? Is it Zionist? Is it communist? What kind of house do you grow up in?
It was Zionist, and it was we were Democrats, versus Republicans. We were Democrats, and
How religious was it?
not at all religious.
Did you have a bar mitzvah?
Yes. But my parents sent me to Hebrew school starting at the age of about 3.
Okay.
And I went to Hebrew school.
But weren't you kosher?
Yes.
Because you're saying you weren't religious, but I thought they weren't like ultra-Orthodox the way most of your family has become. But I thought they were more religious than you.
Yes.
So do you remember like the level, like what the general feeling was in the house? Did your parents go to an Orthodox, I don't even know if they had conservative or reform shuls then. I don't know what they had. They didn't, Mordechai Kaplan and Reconstructionism hadn't hit the lower, east side. What kinds of, so did he go to shul every Saturday morning?
No.
He didn't. So he worked on Saturdays.
Yes.
What was his profession? What did your father do?
He sold dried fruits to Jewish merchants.
What was your father's name?
Irving,
Irving. And your mother?
Bertha,
Bertha. And what is your mother's maiden name?
Mesnick,
Mesnick?
Messnick.
So your father works as a distributor of dry. He's a wholesale.
Wholesale grocer.
Wholesale grocer. Does he have a carriage? He has a truck?
He started off with a horse and carriage, and then he bought a vehicle, I think it was called an Essex, E-S-S-E-X.
Mm-hmm.
And he always worked in the with Jewish clientele.
And Dad, regarding your mother, Bertha Mesnick, this is totally a digression, so you can cut it out, and we'll talk.
Nothing's
more.
cut out. Just
we'll talk more about it afterwards.
Okay.
But I just have to interject a minute just to say that years ago I gave my DNA. There are organizations now called Ancestry and 23andMe where they check you. You just give them a little DNA like a tongue swab, and there's a increasingly large DNA database all over the world. And then there are matches, and you find relatives, okay? Because DNA is forever. And years ago, I put in, and I said, I'm so and so. My mother is all I knew is my grandparents, and I said my grandmother Bertha Mesnick from Zaborov. And just last week, I got notified by someone sending me, her name is Ellen Meshnick, and it's pretty clearly the same family, M-E-S-H-N-I-C-K.
From where? Where are they?
They're all over. She did a huge family tree. I think she's in Atlanta. And we found, Sharona and I found one name that you will know, one of your uncles. So it looks like the real name may have been Meshnick. So that's for another day. But Dad, isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about that over the weekend.
Tell me about growing up in the Lower East Side. Lee, tell me about the Lower East Side when you were a kid, when you were a teenager.
Well, it was a Jewish environment. Most of the inhabitants were Jewish, and those with a little adventure crossed the Williamsburg Bridge and went to
Brooklyn?
The beginning of Brooklyn.
Williamsburg?
Yeah.
Dumbo?
Williamsburg.
Yeah.
I think today it's called Dumbo.
So were you looking for trouble in Williamsburg, or what do you mean looking for adventure?
Well, we weren't looking for trouble, but we wanted to see what the world was like. So we crossed over the bridge and looked at the other side of the bridge.
Were most of your friends Jewish that you grew up with?
All of them.
All of them. Do you remember the synagogue that you guys belonged to down there? The congregation?
Yeah. There was only Orthodox at that time.
Yeah.
Attorney Street Synagogue.
Attorney Street Synagogue.
Yeah.
That's funny. Did you like going?
No, but my father dragged me.
Did he drag your sisters?
No.
They got out of it.
Now, do you belong to a youth movement or something? Do you belong to like the Scouts or?
I or did I?
Did you?
Oh.
When you were growing up in the Lower East Side as a kid, as a teenager, were you a part of any youth movement, the Boy Scouts of America, maybe a Zionistic movement?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dad, right? Because he's going to get to when you were like only 18 years old or 20. you know, that you went and, now how old were you? 24, 30, oh, 24, that you went to fight, you know, to Israel. So clearly something
Exactly.
in your childhood maybe sort of primed you, you know, groomed you towards going in a certain direction. When do you remember first feelings of strong passion for Israel?
Or for Palestine at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Do you remember when you first heard the word Palestine? It must have seemed like something from outer space.
Yeah, I don't know.
Way past Brooklyn.
What about college? You became a democratic socialist, right? Or Socialist Democrats of America. You got very, you know, you became a Trotskyite. So when did that all start? Was it college or was it high school?
Towards the end of my high school.
You became
days.
politically active?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you used to think about how the world should run and how you might disagree with the status quo or with what your parents thought?
I don't remember.
Were you a rebel?
Yes.
Were you? Yeah, you were a Trotskyist rebel?
I didn't know if I was Trotskyist, but I was a rebel.
And more leaning to the left, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
You told me you were a Trotskyist.
Really?
Yeah, you were
Okay.
big onto Trotsky.
Now tell me, when we're gonna go forward a little bit. When World War II breaks out in 1939, America is still neutral, right?
Yeah.
But everybody knows what's going on in Germany with the Jews, with the Nuremberg laws, with Kristallnacht,
Yeah.
the Munich Pact.
Mm-hmm.
Is there talk around the community about the situation? Is it like, do you remember anything particular about those days before the war, before Pearl Harbor? I mean.
Yeah, the Germans were killing Jews. That's what I remember.
That's what you remember. And do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Pearl Harbor
You were
was
probably in high school.
1941?
Yeah, December 1941.
No, I finished high school in 1940.
Okay.
You were in college very young.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Were you an accelerated student?
Yeah, big time. He skipped lots of grades. But
Wow.
they used to skip smart people much more easily.
Okay.
My father graduated from college at 18.
From college at 18. And what college did you go to?
City College
Ci-
of New York.
City College of New York, absolutely.
I'm sure you've interviewed a lot of people who went to
I
City
have.
College.
And what did you study?
Everything.
All right.
I remember the Dean Morton Gottschalk, called me in when I was a senior in college and said, "Leon, we have a problem." So I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "Unfortunately, you cannot graduate without having a major subject and a minor subject, and you have neither. You have taken courses in every department in the school, but not enough to have a major or a minor. So we have to work something out for you." So they found out that I had enough courses in Latin and Greek, so they gave me a major in classical languages,
Uh-huh.
and they found out I had enough in, I think it was psychology.
So your mind was scattered in too many directions, basically.
Exactly.
You were hyper to know about everything.
Exactly.
Isn't that great? Super. Or he had what they now call HDAD.
Or ADD.
ADD, attention deficit. You just go
went everywhere.
going everywhere.
What were the subjects that fascinated you the most?
All of them.
All of them. I knew you were going to say that. I had a feeling you were going to say that. What about politics at the time? Does that interest you? politics, what's happening in the world, the rise of fascism, communism.
Yeah.
Where does Leon find himself? I know that you said to me that you're more to the left, but are you like socialist? Do you belong to the American Socialist Party? Are you an activist? What's your philosophy at that time?
Oh. Well, I was definitely to the left.
Uh-huh.
I supported the Democratic Party.
Uh-huh. So you weren't more left to the Democratic Party. You weren't like, what was his name? Debs or like these,
Maybe, I don't remember.
Okay. So you graduate college when you're 18 years old.
Yeah.
1943.
Yes.
Does Uncle Sam want you in the army?
Yes.
What's the story with that?
Well, that was the time when Germany was run by Adolf Hitler.
Correct.
And I wanted to participate in the fight against Hitler, who was in the process of killing a lot of Jews. So when I was in college, I joined something called the ROTC.
Sure. Tell me about that.
Reserve Officers Training Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my eyesight did not qualify me for the ROTC. So when I got online to join the ROTC, I stood behind the candidate before me and memorized the eye chart.
You're not the first person who's told me this story. Continue.
And when my turn
Like
came,
Trump, huh? He did the opposite. He got out of it. Yeah.
when my turn came, I just read off the eye chart. So they drafted me. And the very first day I was on active duty, they gave me another eye test, but this time they didn't let me look over the shoulder of the guy in front of me. So when my turn came, I couldn't read anything. I saw the letter on the top. I think it was an E. So they put me in the infantry.
And they shipped you down south?
And they shipped me to Fort Benning, I think.
In Alabama? Or
Georgia.
Georgia. What year is this? 1943?
Yeah.
Yeah? So the war is kind of at its peak right now.
Yeah.
Kinda, at least. So do you do a basic training down in Fort Benning, Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay.
And after the basic training, I guess they shipped me off to the front.
Where'd they send you? Are you in the Pacific Theater or are you in the European Theater?
I'm in the European theater.
What's your job in the infantry? What is your? You're in a platoon. You're in a squad. What's your? Are you a radio operator? Are you a medic? Are you a mortarist? Are you a flamethrower? What are you?
I'm an assistant to the commanding officer.
Okay. Isn't that more like a radio operator, kinda? Do you have like?
No, it's administrative. I used to submit the daily morning report for him to sign.
Okay.
And then I used to read the bulletins that came out, and I saw that my unit was headed towards the Pacific after we beat Hitler.
So where do you first come to in Europe?
Normandy.
Okay. Is this after the invasion?
Yeah, well, Eisenhower was the commanding general,
Of the joint, yeah.
and on June 6, 1944, he led his troops across the English Channel in the invasion of Europe. And his strategy was to attack the German forces across the English Channel, and then to attack the Germans from the north, and to make what they call a pincers movement, to catch the Germans right in the middle there.
Right.
So my unit was in the north. So we were supposed to go to Amsterdam and capture Amsterdam and come down south from Amsterdam
Through Belgium.
through Belgium and surround the German army.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm alive because the Canadian Army failed in its mission of capturing Amsterdam.
What's the name of that mission? It was a catastrophe. It was all these hang gliders that parachuted Operation Market Garden, or something like that. And I think it was led by Montgomery,
You're good,
I
Josh.
think. And it was just it was a mess. And it was the Canadians and the British that,
Screwed up.
that paid the price.
So explain how it saved your life, because that was interesting, where you were supposed to be deployed and what actually happened.
Well, as I said, there was supposed to be a pincers movement,
Sure.
and my unit was in the north, and we were supposed to come from the north and surround the German army.
So since it didn't work, what did you do instead?
I don't remember. Anyway,
Did you go to England?
yeah,
They sent you guys back to England.
yes.
Okay.
And I spent time in Liverpool.
Great city.
Yeah, and
Pre-Beatles.
I understand, but it's just a great city.
Yeah.
the Beatles were just starting to sing at
They
that
were just,
time.
they weren't even born.
No,
They were just
Dad,
born.
they weren't just starting to sing. If they were singing in the womb.
Yeah.
So they send you to Liverpool.
And I spent time in Liverpool. I don't remember.
Okay. Are you in Liverpool when the war is over? Do they send you back to the European to the continent, or not, or
Yes,
the Battle of the Bulge? Does that find where are you when that happens?
in the battle,
In the battle.
yeah.
Were you under the Third Army, or were you in?
I remember that I was in the Battle of the Bulge.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that the battle where you said that there was a strategy where when you didn't know if it was a German or an American, you would ask them about baseball?
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yes.
That was in the Battle of the Bulge, right?
Yeah.
So tell Josh about what the trick was when you weren't sure because you couldn't tell from people's, uniforms.
Because the Germans were wearing American uniforms.
Right. So
what would you say to them?
Who won the World Series last year? And if they didn't know,
shoot them.
We shot them.
And then what did you realize afterwards?
A lot of American men were not interested in baseball at all and had no idea who won the World Series last year.
My father taught me that at a young age. That's the horror of war. It's just so random. They undoubtedly killed some Americans thinking he was a German.
Is that true? Yeah, that happened?
Sure.
It's total chaos, right, Deb?
Yeah, that's what war is. Chaos.
Where do you go after the Battle of the Bulge?
They captured hundreds of thousands of German prisoners. And they opened up prisoner of war camps along the English Channel.
Okay. In Calais?
In Calais.
Yep.
So I was put in charge of a prisoner of war camp in the northern part of the English Channel.
Okay.
And they gave the names of cigarettes to the different prisoner of war camps. And I was in charge of Camp Philip Morris. And I think that's where I met my wife.
Where'd you meet your wife? What was she?
She was a French Jewish lady. And I think she had escaped during the Second World War because her parents sent her down to the Iberian Peninsula, that's Spain and Portugal.
Yeah.
And then somehow, I forget the details, but
Okay.
they sent her to New York. And my mother had been friendly with a French lady who got out before the Germans captured the whole continent.
Right.
And she found a place to live on West 60.
But you met your wife in France, though.
No, I think in New York.
In New York. Tell me, when the war is over, you come back to the United States. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And you get discharged from the Army.
Yes.
And you decide to go to rabbinical school.
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Why do you, who's a socialist or a Trotskyist, why are you going to rabbinical school? Isn't that like the exact opposite of what you want to do? Or what you believe in?
Yeah, well, we were at loose ends. And there was a law that was passed where veterans who were called GIs.
Yeah, the GI Bill.
Yeah, got a stipend for going to school.
That which means that the government would pay for your education.
Right.
And you're already after college. I mean, you're already an educated guy.
Right.
And you decide to go to rabbinical school where?
On West 68th Street.
And the name of the school is?
The Jewish Institute of Religion.
Is that Yeshiva University or is that
No.
JTS?
Neither.
Neither. Okay.
It's a school that was founded by Rabbi Stephen Wise.
Is it a very liberal school?
Yes.
Okay. So it's a liberal school for Reform Judaism or Conservative Judaism?
Well, those movements didn't exist then.
Okay.
But
What? So you go to this? You go to study rabbinical studies because you want the knowledge, or you really want to become a rabbi?
neither.
Neither.
I just wanted to get the monthly allowance.
Why did you go study law or chemistry or? Why rabbinical? Why rabbinical studies?
I think there was a lady dean who was a pacifist or something. I don't remember the details.
Do you remember her name?
At this point, no.
Okay. So you go. When do you come back? 46? You come back to the States?
Yeah,
Okay. You come back to the States, you enroll in rabbinical studies, right? At
Yes.
the Institute.
yes.
And when do you get married already? Or are you with your wife? Or are you guys not yet? Does that happen after Mahal?
I think it happens after Machal.
Okay. So 1946, 47, there's a lot of activity going on in New York City regarding the situation in Palestine. Is this a situation that's that you're concerned about?
Yes.
What's going on here in New York City regarding Palestine?
I don't remember. I remember the phrase mitnatvei chutz la'aretz. Machal.
I understand that you at some point decide to volunteer for Mahal. Is that correct?
Yes.
Who pulls you into Mahal here? How do you get involved?
I don't remember.
And I also heard that when your faculty members heard that you were volunteering to go fight in Palestine, you were expelled from school.
Right.
Can you tell me about that?
Well, there was a lady dean who was a very extreme pacifist. In the First World War, she had gone to jail rather than support the American war
Okay.
in the First World War.
Okay.
So when she heard that I was going to Palestine to support the Jewish cause, she told me that if I dared to go, she would not accept me when I came back. And she was true to her word. When I got back, after being, I think I was wounded or something. Yeah, I had a spinal problem. When I got back, she refused to readmit me. So I went to Stephen Wise, who was the founder of that rabbinical school, and who was a world-renowned Zionist. And I spoke to him and I said, how can you permit your dean to expel me from your school? So he said, I'm 75 years old and very old. I can't fight her. So he allowed me to be expelled. So that was the end. I wouldn't have made a good pulpit rabbi anyway, but my idea was to become a rabbi in an organization in colleges known as Hillel. I would have been a Hillel rabbi. But there went my rabbinical career.
Because you went to help out the cause in Palestine.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I felt that I was justified in going to Palestine to help what they call the Yeshuv. So that was the end of my rabbinical career.
How do you get to Palestine?
By ship?
Do you remember the name of the ship?
No. In fact, I think I went by airplane.
By airplane?
El Al, maybe.
I don't think El Al existed then.
Hmm.
So you go with a group of other guys? Are you a group, or are you alone, or like?
I'm alone.
Alone. Do they tell you where you're going to go, what you're going to do? Is there are you smuggling any weapons while you're here in New York? Is there anything going on at the docks, at the warehouses, the Navy Yard? Anything that you remember?
I'm sure there was, but I don't remember.
Okay. What? Please.
You know, I'm sorry, I had to leave the room a couple of minutes. Did you tell the story about how you were supposed to transport a car
No.
to Israel? What was that about? That you had to take a car over for Ben Gurion or something like that? Or for
Yeah. There was no Jewish state,
Right.
and the
Wait a second. Continue, sorry. There was no Jewish state.
and the Jewish affairs were run out of the Jewish agency compound on,
On 14th Street.
no, in Jerusalem.
Oh, in Jerusalem. Karen Kayemet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's Karen Kayemet.
And King George.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the story with the car? They asked you to bring a car here from the States to Palestine?
Yeah, the British, the Prime Minister of England was a man named Ernest Bevin. We thought he was anti-Semitic, and today I think he wasn't so much anti-Semitic as pro-Arab.
Right.
And
What's the story with the car?
well, they wanted a car for Ben Gurion, who was worked out of the Jewish agency compound. And the British imposed a very high meches,
Tax.
duty
Duty free, yeah.
on all heavy equipment, like including cars.
Sure.
So they put the car in my name so I could avoid the meches.
Why did you avoid the meches?
I wasn't Israeli, I was
He was a
American.
Palestinian.
So you were saying that you're just coming over from America, you were going to live in Israel, or?
No,
So you came with the car?
with the car.
So you came by ship?
Yeah, I guess so.
Or, okay, what kind of car was it? Do you remember?
A Dodge.
A Dodge.
Yeah,
Was it a nice car or was it like
brand new.
brand new? Not bad.
1947 Dodge.
Black?
Black.
Did you drive it a little? Did you?
No,
No.
I turned it over to whoever met me on the other side.
So when you get to the other side, when you get to Palestine, is it is it before the UN declaration? Is it before the 29th of November 1947 when the UN partitions Palestine? Or is it between that and when Ben Gurion declares the state on May 48? Do you remember when you arrived?
No.
No. Do you remember where you went?
I think I went to Jerusalem to I went to the offices of the newspaper Davar,
Okay.
which is, and they it's very vague.
Okay. I know the newspaper. It's a very left-wing newspaper.
Did you write for them?
No,
What did they want you to do? What did the Palmach or the Haganah want you to do? What did you personally? I mean, you're a veteran of the Second World War. You're a person who's graduated college. Do they want you to do something specific?
Like, had you enlisted, and I don't know anything about this, Dad. Did you go and enlist in Machal or in the Haganah when you were in Israel, or had it been done from
From New York.
New York?
I don't remember.
Okay.
What is your first memory of doing something for Palmach? Well, what was the difference between Palmach and Haganah?
Palmach was like the special units, and the Haganah was like the
whole thing.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So what about the Machal? You know, like, what were you doing in the war?
Do you remember the Machal Club on Hayarkon Street in Tel Aviv?
No,
There was a club there for all the Machal soldiers.
no. I remember most of the Machalniks had come from South Africa,
Correct.
and
Correct.
not too many came from the States.
Do you remember? Were you in any battles in the War of 48? Do you remember being in any?
Yeah,
What do you remember?
it's too vague.
Did you guard Ben Gurion's house?
Oh yeah. Ben Gurion had an apartment in the Jewish Agency compound
In Jerusalem,
in Jerusalem on King George and
Karen Kayemet.
Karen Kayemet.
And you guarded his house?
And they sent me to stand guard outside his apartment.
Did you ever meet him?
Yes.
What can you tell me?
Well, at about 6 a.m., the door to his apartment in the compound opened up, and a little man, maybe 5'2" or 3 or 4, opened the door, and he was dressed in summer pajamas, shorts, and a shirt. And he said, Boker Tov, and I said, Boker Or. And he picked up the Davar, which was in
the
front
newspaper.
of the door, and he closed the door. And they had given me a Czechoslovakian rifle.
Uh-huh.
So I had the rifle and I stayed outside the door. And then it becomes vague.
Okay. Did you spend most of the time in Jerusalem when you were in Machal?
Yeah.
Yeah? So were you in Jerusalem during the siege? You know, there was a siege.
Yeah.
Do you remember the siege a little? People standing in line for water and for food, and it was very hard times.
Yes. I think I was in the last Shayara leaving Jerusalem before the siege.
Okay.
What's Shayara, Dad?
Convoy.
Convoy.
And they took me up in the hill outside Jerusalem.
Uh-huh. That was around the time where Mickey Marcus helped build the Burma Road,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
How long were you in Israel for? It's okay, Leon. You said that you got wounded, that you had some spinal condition or something?
Yeah, they had asked me to guard. There was a road that went up to Hebrew University.
Yes, to Mount Scopus.
Yeah,
Yep, there was a massacre there.
yeah. So they asked me at the bottom of that road,
Uh-huh.
they asked me to station myself and not to let anyone except the machalniks to pass. So that's what I did.
Did you ever hear of a guy named David Makarov? He was also Machal in Jerusalem.
I think I'd heard
He
the
was
name.
older than you. He was about 7, 8 years older than you. He was originally from Atlanta, Georgia.
I think I heard his name.
And his wife's name was... what's the name of that famous Mexican painter with an F?
Rivera, Frida.
Frida. Her name was Frida. David and Frida Makarov. And he dealt with radar.
Uh-huh.
But I'm just wondering if the Machal people in Jerusalem, because most of them were all scattered,
Yeah.
but he does ring a bell. David Makarov was a Machal guy who helped deliver the envelopes in New York City to the Panamanian delegates with bribe money so that they could get the ship flags.
He's probably not alive anymore.
He isn't, but I interviewed him before he
Right.
passed away.
Oh, how great.
And
Oh, it's very possible they knew
it's
each
very
other.
possible that he met, and he even, Lee says that the name kind of even rings a bell. They
yeah.
called him Mac. And he was a small little guy with glasses, not a big, muscle kind of guy, and
That's cool. Dad, did you meet any friends, anybody who became your buddies in Israel? I know you've had several war buddies, but I'm not sure which war, like Irv Fellner or Josh Feldman. Did any of your buddies go to Palestine with you, or
No.
he said that he went alone.
you told the story about the rabbinical school, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know the name of the woman, the dean? Because he couldn't remember her name, the one
The
who
woman?
expelled him. Yeah, it was a woman.
He told me it was he said it was Stephen Wise.
No, Stephen West said that he couldn't help him.
Right.
But it was this woman who was the dean,
Oh, she was a
and
woman.
she was like
Dad?
she was a
Yeah.
pacifist, and he explained that she was like that.
What's
for war.
her name?
He can't remember.
We
We'll
can
have-
look it up.
Yeah, we can look it up. But she's the one who expelled him.
She's the one we should throw tomatoes at, huh?
Right.
Now, in hindsight.
What did your parents think about you going to fight in Palestine?
They were opposed to it.
They were opposed to it.
Yeah. If you speak Yiddish, you say, "We can gehargert werden." You can get killed.
You didn't get wounded though, Dad, right? It was just you had some back issues.
Yeah.
The myth in the family was that he got wounded. He went home because he had spinal problems, and they insisted he'd been wounded in the war.
But he just had some
Yeah,
spine.
so that's the family lore. He was wounded, and he's covered. He was, you know, he's brave, and he doesn't want to admit it.